Have you ever noticed how people become completely disarmed when you make them feel seen, admired, important? You compliment them once and suddenly their guard lowers. Twice and their mind starts craving your validation like air. Feed that craving just right and you can lead them anywhere without them ever realizing it. That's the game Machiavelli perfected, using ego not as flattery but as a weapon. Because when you feed someone's ego strategically, you don't just win their approval, you take control of their reality. Most people think manipulation is about deceit or aggression, lies, threats, power moves. But Machiavelli understood something deeper, that the human ego is the most predictable machine ever built. You don't have to fight it, you just have to understand what fuels it. Pride, recognition, the illusion of superiority. Now once you know what a person needs to feel powerful, you can give them that and quietly make them your puppet. Think about how most people operate. They crave to be right, to be admired, to be respected. They'll go out of their way to defend their image even when it costs them everything. But here's the twist. When you make someone believe you see them the way they want to be seen, they'll bend themselves to keep that image alive. Machiavelli used to call this binding through praise. It's the art of turning compliments into chains. Let's say you're dealing with someone arrogant, a boss, a rival, a friend who loves to dominate every conversation. Most people try to confront arrogance head-on. They argue, compete, try to prove their own worth. But Machiavelli would laugh at that. He'd say, why fight the fire when you can make it burn for you? The arrogant crave validation. So instead of resisting them, reflect their greatness back at them, but selectively tell them they're brilliant. But in the one area where you need them to act, tell them they're respected, but only when they make the decision that benefits you. The trick is subtlety. You give them what they want while planting the idea you need. For example, imagine you're working with a powerful figure, someone who believes they're a visionary. You want them to approve your plan. Instead of arguing facts, you feed their ego. You've always had a unique way of seeing potential where others don't. That's exactly why this strategy fits your kind of thinking. You're not lying. You're aligning. You're giving them the illusion of authorship that it's their idea, not yours. And people will fight harder for their ego than for the truth. That's the key difference between ordinary flattery and Machiavellian control. Flattery makes people like you. Ego manipulation makes people need you because once they start associating you with their self-image, you become the mirror they can't live without. But there's a danger here. Feed someone's ego too, obviously, and they'll see through you. Feed it too little and they'll never attach. Machiavelli's genius was balance. He knew when to sprinkle praise and when to withdraw it, because the moment you make people chase for validation, you've inverted the power dynamic. You no longer chase them. They chase your approval. And the most intoxicating power in any relationship isn't dominance. It's the ability to make others want your recognition. Notice how this works, even in everyday life. A teacher who tells a student, "You're smarter than this," doesn't just motivate. They bind the student to that image. A leader who says, "You're one of the few I can trust," isn't just praising. They're controlling through responsibility. Every compliment is a hook, every validation a leash. And when used right, these hooks turn people into loyal soldiers of their own ego. Machiavelli believed that to truly control someone, you must never attack their self-esteem directly. You disguise your dominance as admiration. You give people the illusion of elevation, but only through you. That's why some of the most powerful manipulators appear charming, supportive, empathetic. They aren't feeding kindness, they're feeding dependency. They understand that once someone feels emotionally safe with you, they stop questioning your motives. But this trick works both ways. Look around your life. Who feeds your ego? Who tells you exactly what you want to hear right before asking for something? Who makes you feel irreplaceable, but only when they need you? Those are the Machiavellians around you, and their power isn't in lies. It's in truth used as a drug. They don't fabricate admiration. They weaponize it. So how do you defend yourself from it? You start by noticing when compliments make you act out of character. When someone's praise makes you lower your guard. Ask yourself, if they stopped admiring me, would I still make this decision? Because the moment you're afraid of losing someone's approval, you've already handed them control. Machiavelli knew that even kings and generals, men who commanded armies, could be enslaved by their image. All it took was a clever mind whispering, you're not like the others. You see what others can't. And suddenly they'd start listening, not because they trusted the manipulator, but because they trusted their own ego. That's the most dangerous part, when the manipulation doesn't feel external, when it feels like your own thought. Now, imagine using this consciously, not for evil, but for influence. When you understand what someone needs to feel powerful, you can shape their behavior without confrontation. An insecure person seeks validation. Give it to them only when they align with your interests. A proud person needs admiration. Offer it when they act in your favor. A self-righteous person craves moral superiority. Agree with their ideals, then subtly steer their principles toward your purpose. But the real mastery comes when you combine ego, feeding with emotional withdrawal. Praise them just enough to ignite desire, then pull back. Silence is powerful because it creates hunger. The absence of validation forces people to act in ways that bring it back. That's why the best manipulators aren't the loud ones. They're the quiet ones who make people wonder what they're thinking. This is how Machiavelli saw human nature, not as good or evil, but programmable. Feed a person's ego and you write their code. Deprive it and you rewrite it. That's how entire empires were controlled, not through fear alone, but through the distribution of pride. And in modern times, this hasn't changed. From workplaces to relationships to politics, people still crave one thing above all: the feeling of importance. Whoever grants that feeling rules the game. It's unsettling, isn't it? That your need to be seen could be someone else's strategy, but that's exactly why awareness is power. Once you understand this pattern, you stop being predictable. You learn to take praise without inhaling it. You recognize when admiration is genuine and when it's engineered. And more importantly, you start using this law to position yourself. When you walk into a room, don't try to impress everyone. Instead, identify who needs their ego fed, who thrives on attention, who's silently competing for dominance, who's waiting to be validated. Then give them what they crave, but only in exchange for what you want: a nod, a word, a small acknowledgement at the right moment. It's enough to make even the proudest person bend subconsciously in your direction. And here's the paradox. People will call you kind, supportive, emotionally intelligent. But what you'll really be is strategic. You'll be using the oldest human weakness, ego, as your leverage. Because Machiavelli never taught cruelty for cruelty's sake. He taught control through understanding. He knew that power isn't in being feared or loved. It's in being needed. And nothing makes people need you more than the feeling that you make them matter. So, the next time someone tries to outshine, you don't compete. Reflect their light back at them. Let them believe they're the sun while you quietly control where their rays fall. That's not flattery. That's art. The art of feeding the ego, just enough to starve the will. The art of control disguised as praise. The art Machiavelli called the most dangerous, because it never feels like control at all. When you understand how fragile the ego truly is, you start seeing people differently. Every loud opinion, every boast, every exaggerated confidence. It's not power, it's insecurity in disguise. The louder someone shouts about who they are, the more they secretly fear being ignored, and that's where Machiavelli's darkness becomes genius. He realized you can control people not by opposing their ego, but by protecting it temporarily. Make them feel safe in your admiration, and you can lead them straight into your design. This is why most manipulators don't look like villains. They look like friends, allies, mentors, because the most effective control is never taken by force. It's given willingly, wrapped inside trust. When you tell someone exactly what they long to believe about themselves, they'll hand you the keys to their decision-making. You don't have to demand loyalty when people are already addicted to your approval. Now there's a precise rhythm to this. Praise too early and they'll see it as manipulation. Praise too late and you lose momentum. Machiavelli used timing like a scalpel. He would observe what someone was proud of, their intelligence, beauty, generosity, bravery, and wait until they brought it up. Then he'd reinforce it with precision. You're right. Few people would have seen that. That's not random admiration. It's strategic mirroring. The ego doesn't want new stories about itself. It wants confirmation of the ones it already believes. This tactic works because people crave validation more than truth. You could tell someone an uncomfortable reality that would save them years of mistakes, and they'll still prefer the comforting lie that flatters their identity. Machiavelli exploited that human flaw better than anyone else. He knew that if truth offends pride, pride will destroy truth. So instead of fighting pride, he learned to ride it, to use it, like wind in a sail. Think of how this plays out in relationships. You meet someone who's used to being admired. They're attractive, charming, accomplished. Most people either worship them or try to impress them. Both approaches fail. Machiavelli's way: mirror their admiration back to them. Give them the impression that you see what others miss. Make them feel uniquely understood. They'll start chasing that feeling, not realizing they've stepped into your frame. Suddenly, you're the only person who seems to get them. And from that moment, their ego becomes your silent accomplice. But feeding someone's ego doesn't mean becoming submissive or fake. The real power lies in selective praise, rewarding behavior that aligns with your interests, and withholding validation when it doesn't. People are predictable in that way. What gets rewarded gets repeated. You can train someone to serve your goals simply by controlling the flow of validation. It's behavioral conditioning dressed in emotional connection. That's why Machiavelli often said that power isn't taken. It's granted by those who want to feel powerful through you. When you understand this, you start shaping people's choices without them noticing. For example, if you're in a negotiation and you say, "I can see you're someone who values fairness. That's why I know you'll find this reasonable." You're not appealing to logic, you're appealing to identity. And the ego will twist logic to protect identity. The moment they accept that image of themselves, they'll subconsciously try to live up to it, even if it benefits you. Here's where it gets even darker. Once you've made someone dependent on your validation, you can start removing it strategically. Humans don't crave consistency, they crave emotional contrast, the dopamine spike that comes from earning praise after uncertainty is far stronger than praise itself. So when you withhold approval after giving it just enough, people become restless. They wonder what they did wrong. They start performing for you again, trying to win back that feeling. That's when you own their rhythm. Machiavelli used this not just to gain loyalty, but to test it by occasionally depriving someone of recognition. He could see how deep their need for it ran. If they turned cold, he knew their ego wasn't fully in his grip. But if they tried harder, explaining, proving, overcompensating, he knew he'd planted his hooks deep. Their pride had become his leash. And This applies far beyond politics. In friendships, the one who defines what's acceptable or worthy subtly controls the relationship. In workplaces, the boss, who praises unpredictably, one moment full of approval, the next silent, creates a team addicted to their recognition. The genius is that no one realizes they're being trained. They call it respect, motivation, loyalty, but it's really dependency disguised as devotion. To use this consciously, you must develop what Machiavelli called emotional distance. You can't be emotionally reactive when feeding someone's ego. You have to observe them, like a scientist studying a pattern. Watch what compliments make their eyes light up, what topics make them defensive, what words they repeat about themselves. Those are the pressure points. The things you say afterward should reinforce their identity while serving your outcome. For example, if someone constantly talks about how honest they are, you can frame requests around that. I know you're someone who values integrity. That's why I can trust you with this. Notice the shift. You didn't ask them directly. You challenged their self-image subtly. To maintain that image, they'll comply, not because you force them, but because they can't tolerate contradicting their own ego. That's how deeply this works. But let's flip the perspective for a moment, because Machiavelli would have warned you about this as well. If you're too easily flattered, you're an open book for manipulation. Compliments are data, points for control. Every time someone praises you and you soften instantly, you're telling them this is the button that opens the gate, and people will press it again and again until you no longer recognize your own motives. That's why the powerful must learn to take praise with neutrality, accept it, but never depend on it. Because the second you need validation, you've already lost autonomy. You'll twist yourself to earn approval. You'll overextend, over-explain, overperform. And the Machiavellian mind knows this. The desperate to be liked are the easiest to control. The ones who don't need to be liked, they control everyone else. So, when you interact with people, remember, their ego is a gateway, but your own ego is a cage. Don't become a prisoner of flattery. Don't seek admiration, use it. Every time someone praises you, ask yourself, why now? Every time you praise someone, ask yourself, what am I reinforcing? Because control isn't about domination, it's about awareness. The more aware you are of how ego operates in others and in yourself, the less anyone can use it against you. Machiavelli's brilliance wasn't cruelty. It was understanding the architecture of human pride. He saw that men would rather destroy their own kingdom than admit they were wrong, that they would rather be deceived beautifully than told the truth brutally. And so he built his philosophy not around ideals, but instincts. He didn't judge human weakness, he weaponized it. And that's why his ideas still work centuries later. To feed someone's ego is to touch the most sensitive part of their being, their sense of worth. Do it with skill, and you'll have influence that feels invisible. Do it without awareness, and you'll become another pawn in someone else's game. The line between the manipulator and the manipulated is razor thin, and it's drawn by who understands the hunger for validation better. The real Machiavellian doesn't speak louder than others. He listens deeper. He studies what people worship about themselves, then gives them the altar to keep worshiping. Because when you control where people find their worth, you control their world, and they'll call you their greatest ally, never realizing you've been their quiet master all along. There's a moment that happens when you fed someone's ego long enough, when their need for your validation becomes stronger than their suspicion of your motives. That's when true control begins. They'll start to rationalize everything you do, even the things that clearly serve your benefit, because the mind always protects the source of its pride. You've become in their eyes the one person who truly gets them. And people never betray those who make them feel special, even if they should. Machiavelli understood this. vulnerability not as a flaw, but as a fundamental law of human nature. People can survive rejection, even hatred, but indifference from someone who once admired them, that breaks them. So when you pull away after building someone up, when you go silent after they've tasted your praise, you create an ache they can't explain. It's the emptiness of lost validation, and it makes them desperate to restore balance. They'll start doing what they think will win you back, trying harder, proving themselves, asking for your input. You've shifted the power completely. But here's where the mastery lies. Machiavelli would never recommend destroying someone through their ego, not unless necessary. The most valuable pawn is the one that believes it's a king. You let them keep their illusion of dominance because it makes them controllable. The more they think they're in charge, the less they resist guidance. That's why truly Machiavellian people rarely look powerful. They look harmless, agreeable, cooperative, because they've learned that control works best when it's invisible. Now think about this. In the modern world, the same principles rule. Our workplaces, relationships, and even social media, entire industries are built on feeding ego, likes, comments, awards, recognition. People post not because they have something to say, but because they need to feel seen. The system rewards the ones who understand how to feed that hunger strategically. If you know how to give people a taste of admiration and then withdraw it, you can keep them chasing indefinitely. That's how influencers, leaders, and even corporations hold loyalty, not through logic, but through dopamine. But let's bring this back to personal power. When you enter a room, Machiavelli would tell you to do 3 things immediately. First, identify whose ego dominates the environment, the person others orbiter around. Second, determine what that ego feeds on: respect, intellect, humor, authority, charm. Third, feed it just enough to make them lower their guard. Once they trust your validation, you've gained access to influence. After that, it's just calibration, reward, and withdrawal, praise, and silence. You can shape decisions without confrontation, redirect focus without resistance. The beauty of this strategy is that it doesn't require aggression. You're not forcing anyone to obey. You're giving them a reason to choose what you wanted. All along, people will always prefer a flattering lie over an inconvenient truth. And if you can make your version of reality align with their self-image, they'll defend it for you. That's why the most successful manipulators don't argue. They agree enthusiastically while subtly steering the direction. Here's a small but powerful example. If someone is self-righteous, they'll always want to be seen as the good one. So you say, "You're right. Only someone with real integrity would take that stance." You just validated their ego while quietly binding them to a moral framework that benefits you. From that point on, they'll resist anything that contradicts the identity you gave them. That's not mind control, it's ego control, and it's far more effective. Now imagine using this to lead, to persuade, to outmaneuver. You can make allies out of rivals by feeding the right parts of their pride. You can make people reveal secrets by praising their honesty. You can make the ambitious overextend by flattering their talent. Machiavelli's brilliance wasn't in creating manipulation. It was in noticing that everyone's ego can be mapped, triggered, and guided with precision. But the greatest danger is when you start believing in your own performance. When you start thinking you're immune to the very tactics you use, that's when someone more skilled will flip the game on you. They'll feed your ego with surgical precision, admiring your intelligence, praising your self-awareness, subtly reminding you how different you are from everyone else. And before you realize it, you'll be explaining yourself to them, defending your worth, craving their respect. The moment you do that, they've won, because control always shifts to whoever is less emotionally hungry. This is why Machiavelli's true students never seek admiration. They prefer quiet influence. They understand that needing to be seen is the first step to being controlled. When you no longer crave validation, you become unpredictable. And unpredictability is power. No one can manipulate what they can't read. So how do you develop this level of control without becoming corrupted by it? You learn to observe human behavior through detachment. When someone flatters you, don't reject it, analyze it, ask, what do they gain by seeing me this way? When you flatter others, do it consciously, not compulsively. Praise should never come from need, only from strategy. You give it like currency, intentionally, sparingly, for a return. And that's the essence of Machiavellian wisdom. Control doesn't come from domination. It comes from psychological accuracy. It comes from knowing what someone values about themselves and using that as leverage. It comes from understanding that the strongest chains are made not of fear, but of admiration. When someone's pride is linked to you, they'll protect you as they protect themselves. But don't forget the final layer: restraint. Feeding someone's ego is not the same as worshiping it. If you give too much, you become predictable. If you give too little, you lose influence. Balance is everything. One well-timed compliment can buy you more loyalty than 100 demands. One moment of silence can trigger more obedience than a threat. This is the invisible language of control, subtle, slow, almost invisible, the kind that leaves people convinced they're acting freely when in reality they're dancing to the rhythm you set. And that's where Machiavelli's darkest trick reveals its brilliance. You don't dominate people by breaking their ego. You own them by feeding it. You don't control them by fear. You guide them through admiration. And the higher their pride rises under your hand, the more fragile it becomes. Without you, that's the paradox. You build them up so that their strength depends entirely on your validation. You create gods and then quietly become their priest. Feed their ego wisely and they'll trust you with their vulnerabilities. Feed it recklessly and you'll create monsters. But the one who understands the rhythm, the delicate balance of praise and silence, reflection and restraint becomes untouchable, because they're not just manipulating people, they're composing them. And once you see the world this way, as a symphony of egos, waiting to be tuned, you stop reacting to others. You start conducting. That's the point Machiavelli was always leading to. Power isn't about force, it's about composition, the power to make others move willingly to the music only you can